Hi, I'm Ksenia, and today we're going to take a look at Handcrafted Mallets, the Synth. So there are two parameters that you can manipulate on the synth. One is distortion, which sounds almost like modular distortion, and I feel like you can't achieve that with basic distortion plugins. And the second one is reverb/distance. So you can also control how far or close the instrument sounds to you. So let's try it out. We have distortion here. And this is what the distance sounds like. So you can get it as dry or as wet as you like. And playing between them or together is really kind of what brings the magic out of the instrument. So there are so many categories for presets here. You have arpeggiators, basses, Atmos, granular synthesizers as well, percussion. So if you were missing some percussion libraries, you have that as well. Pulses, which I think for film composers especially is something that always helps in specific like tense scenes. And we also didn't forget about sound designers. So if you do sound design and music, there's also a lot of amazing sounds in there. And of course, swells, which you also can't really live without if you're a film composer. So a lot of really exciting sounds to play with. Yeah, that one is cool. this one also layers really nice. Something that is new in comparison to the first library, which was the handcrafted piano, is there is a section with Atmo, which is basically when you're feeling very uninspired. This kind of composes everything for you, and it's really magical. You just I press one note, and it does everything. So that was one key. And if you play multiple, I mean, it's... So I will definitely be using that one. So when it comes to pads, there are 3 different categories. One is just the normal pads, and there you just have a lot of different colors that I think especially fit more film music context. Then you have pad basic, which I wouldn't say they sound very basic, but it's the ones that I think they are kind of the most reliable or go-to if you're looking for a pad. And then you have pad dry if, for example, you work in a more electronic music context, or if you're working in a pop song and you don't necessarily need this massive tail or reverb on your pad. And then you would go more in the pad dry section and then look for the pads there. But I think in the beginning, it's always good to listen to all of them and then find your favorite sounds. So you have also these kind of soft pads, and you might notice that depending on where you are in the register, that also kind of affects the sound a bit. So in this one, for example, a bit higher, you have more air. And then the lower register sounds a bit kind of warmer. And then for pad basic, even though it doesn't sound like it, all of these sounds are still made from mallets, which is very incredible. It's very hard to imagine kind of making everything just from one sound. But of course, we also have percussion in there, and it's great if you work more in pop or electronic music because we have 8 kicks, 2 hats, a laser, and then there are some percussion loops that you can also use. The kicks sound really good. They all sound slightly different. So this one's a bit drier and stompier, so maybe it's also better for techno, for example, and the first one is better for more industrial sound. Yeah, this one is almost like I can imagine it in film a lot better. And then we have the percussion loops. There are a lot of them. 51 percussion loops, so there is definitely a lot to choose from. Yeah, this one just layered under an action scene would always work. Then we have also yeah, they have really interesting rhythms to them. So now we're gonna take a look at some of the sound design presets, and there are some really fun ones. So as you can see, a lot of the sound design is actually quite musical, or it has pitch, so if you're brave enough, you can also try and compose with it. But I think this is really, really fun. And for pulses, so you can assign the knobs to decay and cutoff, and of course attack or whatever you need. And you can create these really cool soft pulses that you might need when you're adapting or scoring directly to the scene. So let's see what it sounds like. Yeah. We also have sequencers, and there are also two sections, which is the normal sequencers and sequencers base. And let's listen to one of them. And sequencers bass I find really fun for more like pop music and electronic music, because they just add so much body into the production. So there's also another way to browse through sounds. One we already showed, which is kind of choosing the role of the instrument in your session, like if it's a bass, a lead, a sequencer. But if you think a bit differently in terms of what the sound actually sounds like, there's also a browser that you can look into. And here you have this more descriptive way of thinking of the sound. So you have vibe on the left side, and here you have basic metals, wood, shorts, impulses. So you kind of probably already have an idea of what kind of sound you're looking for. Smokes, darkness. So it seems a lot more intentional if you're not just playing around or experimenting, but instead you're looking for something very specific. And then module is the type of sound in that category, and they sound generally a lot more organic, because when you go through the general presets, they have a lot of processing on them. So if you want to have a more organic sound from the beginning and then play around with it more, that would also be a cool approach to try. In the module, you have more like iron breath, aluminium, chroma plates. So they also give you an idea of what the sound could sound like. But it's really fun to combine and experiment and see what comes out of it. For example, impulses. We have impulse response, force release, stress wave. Let's try a stress wave. You can definitely hear it has a more organic sound to it. It doesn't have these kind of dips in it. It's just a very straight wave, and then you can definitely play with it more, or if you want to try other plugins on top of it, I think that's a good sound to start with. We also have force release. How about smokes? So if I'm, for example, composing to a scene and I already know the kind of emotion and atmosphere that I'm going for, I would probably look through the browser first and then find the right sound that I'm looking for. Curious what liquids sound like as well. Heavy water. You can definitely hear the vibraphone a lot more in this one. So if you go into shorts, for example, you see the original sounds slightly more processed, but it's kind of the basics for all the synth sounds that you can find in this library. So you have the marimba, we also have distorted, wood, mute, vibraphone, sus, stick. So everything that came from the original sounds, and you can hear it a lot clearer in this one. But let's see how it sounds different. Yeah, I can't say exactly what makes it sound more synthy, but it does sound, I think, yeah, the lack of velocity. Yeah, it's really cool. I think it's also good when you're not using it in the traditional orchestral context, and perhaps you don't need as much control with velocity or making it sound as organic. And I think this translates a lot better in like more produced and pop tracks or electronic tracks. If you look on top, you're gonna find a few more interesting circles. We have the settings here where you can control the dynamic range and tightness and octaves. So you have actually a lot of control over how the instrument comes across. In this panel, we have the kind of sequencer and arpeggiator. It might look scary to some of you, but it's actually not that scary. And I will quickly show you how it works. So let's say you have it on the off button. If you turn on the sequencer, it's better for just one held note. So something like that. The fun part is if you look on the left, we have different things that you can automate in the sequencer and arpeggiator, which is time, velocity, octave, pitch, and pan. And if you don't know what to do, you can always just press on the little star and it randomizes a preset for you. So you can try different things. For time, there is a really cool option. If you unclick the tempo sync and click the randomized time, then you will hear. So you can have ritetando and accelerando in the synth, which I haven't seen before, so I find it to be quite special. And you can also play with the speed a bit or the amount of steps. So that would also change the length of the like the sample that you play. Yeah, so this is really fun. Then for velocity, same thing. We click on the star. It's probably gonna do also very different things. So as you can see, it becomes kind of stronger or lighter based on the opacity of the buttons, and you can always go in and fine tune it if you'd like. Then we have the octaves, which should be pretty straightforward. Then we have pitch. And we have pan, which basically plays with the panning. So as you can see, it's really not scary at all. And if you don't know what to do, just click the star. And if you don't like what it does, you can click the little square next to it and then it stops. The arpeggiator is more fun if you have chords to play. And then if I do, for example, the octave, let's randomize it a bit. And the step. So you can really sit here for a long time playing with all of these parameters and all the different synths, and I'm sure you will find a sound that's really inspiring. Another thing that you can control is you have obviously the EQ, and on top of it you can find tape, delay, detune, which is probably my favorite option. And it's also something that's new and wasn't there for the handcrafted piano. Let's listen to how it sounds. So you can even go microtonal if you'd like with it. Maybe if we take something a bit closer. Yeah, I think it's pretty fun, especially if you have, for example, a character in the scene going crazy and then you start to detune whatever sound you're working with. It's just like works instantly. Then we have pulse, where you can control, like in other synthesizers, you can control the shape of the wave of the oscillator. So you have a square, so wave, sine, and then you have this kind of weird one in the end. So let's listen to that. You can also control the note value, so you can do triplets and 16th notes and whatever you want. And we also have the vibrato, which is slightly different than in the acoustic library. So it's more of just an effect and not the fans in the vibraphone. Also really fun to play with. So you also have the control between two sets of microphones. You have the main and the far. And on top you have also panning, so you can pan, for example, the main to the left and the far to the right. Which is also quite cool.